our friend here, Benny Johnson, what he has to say about Trump and crew.
Where she goes and attacking America, his message is that he's going to stop allowing all immigration, legal, criminal, H-1B, whatever, or otherwise from the third world, and he's going to consider potentially remigration.
Now, this is the problem. Let me know if you can hear him all right. This is, of course, a significant problem for conservatives, for our white brothers and sisters, in particular, who are cucks, is that we're clearly talking about biospirit. We're clearly talking about the differences in biospirit among the races of man. And we here hold that there is no cosmic measuring stick. There isn't one better than the other in the universe. We do have preferences. We do prefer, as white people, to be among our own and in the midst of our instinctual projection into the world and in its aggregate white culture, Western culture, Western countries. We prefer that. It does seem that others of other groups around the world, that they seem to prefer the fruits that are produced as a consequence of Western kind existing and the civility of our societies. And so much does seem like so many of them prefer that as well. They prefer what we produce as well. They prefer our audience. They prefer to be in our neighborhoods. They prefer to be among us. Okay, but we have preferences. There is no cosmic measuring stick. There is not better or worse. There just is very different biospirits that produce very different outcomes in their projection and in their aggregate. So cuck white people right now are confronted with a real problem. The reality that there are biospiritual differences, but the social morality of anti-whiteism, the anti-white immoral imperative that says it's immoral to feel, to know, to understand, to discuss these differences, to make decisions based on these physical differences, these tangible differences in societies around the world, demonstrating that white cucks, like almost everybody except for us, white positivists, are measuring their morality or immorality according to an anti-white moral metric. They feel it's immoral. And as a consequence, they're going to be having some very challenging cognitive dissonance. And what happens when our white brothers and sisters who are cucks have this cognitive dissonance? They capitulate to the morality, the social morality of the age. So we're going to see some very bizarre Cirque du Soleil, body bending acrobatics of the mind as they attempt to defend and discuss how we don't want people with these biospirits and what they produce in our midst, because they're going to have to and want to say anything else. What's the consequence of that? Well, the consequence is the arguments that they make are going to be patently absurd, patently incorrect, erroneous, patently not addressing the actual matter at hand. And as a consequence, they will be able to be easily defeated by anti-whites. Where does it matter? At the dinner table, at the water cooler, at the bus stop, at the soccer game. These people will be having these conversations and they will be confronted with others who will be able to easily dismantle the poorly cobbled together chimerical excuses that have nothing to do with the fundamental reality of biospiritual differences in mankind.
Which is a huge deal of populations that clearly don't love America and are incompatible with our culture. Now, President Trump didn't get a chance.
What makes them incompatible with our culture? What's culture? Human beings are not, of course, I have to say, in my opinion, they're not all identical and cultures were distributed by a culture fairy, and white people were given Western civilization, and others were given other types of civilization, and we just hoarded this good civilization for us. These are the kind of problems that the cucks are going to run into.
To get on camera and defend any of this until just minutes ago. And we have a great summary of President Trump's gaggle aboard Air Force One, where President Trump finally took questions about this post, and he covered everything, including deporting Ilhan Omar and remigration, sending people who don't belong here back home to their.
Now, you can tell when Benny, now who knows what Benny actually knows, understands, and thinks. Who knows? But you can see the a measure of confusion, a measure of a difficulty in articulating, and you'll see, I predict, they'll come up with some sort of catchphrase, white cucks will, and then they'll all start repeating the catchphrase, which will leave the source of the differences, the source of the problem, nebulous. And then they'll hope to sort of just bum rush their opposition in conversation and browbeat them, and maybe even by the volume of their voice, silence them with whatever the catchphrase that they come up with. Keep an eye out. I don't know what it is yet, but they'll definitely come up with one, and then there'll be this great sigh of relief in the cucks, because they'll be able to sidestep, circumvent the immorality of recognizing the reality of race.
Their homes. Here we go.
Made a lot of moves throughout the last few days after we know that Afghan national is a suspected shooter of these National Guardsmen.
Yeah, people that shouldn't be in our country this way.
So you announced that asylum.
And that includes Somalians and it includes plenty of others.
How long does your administration plan to pause asylum into the U.S.?
I think a long time.
Can you give any kind of...
We don't want them. We don't want those people. We have enough problems. We don't want those people.
Is that a year, 2 years?
No time limit.
And then
no time limit. That's how it should be. These people, I think clearly what Donald Trump is understanding, can never be compatible with Western civilization. Us. Their biospirits are, and they are biospiritually incompatible. What they project into the world and in its aggregate is at conflict, at variance with what we project into the world. Biospiritual incompatibility is the source, because we are animals, and I believe we have souls, but we are in the bodies of animals. So we have instincts and we project it into the world, and we seek to harmonize with that instinct that we naturally project into the world by seeing it projected back or reflected back at us. And when you have populations who have what we refer to in the Go Free Dialogic as numerical courage, they project their instinct into the world. They begin living as and who they are. And that, as you can see, is completely incompatible. He is recognizing this. Now, you can't get this to comport with, to jibe with the other positions born in the anti-white narrative that conservatives represent and hold and share, that people are tabula rasa. Everybody they need to be trained. If they could only hold the opinion that they're an American and that they love America and that America is about getting rich, well, then we would all be fine. So they're going to have a hard time juggling with how can a people just from their very nature be incompatible. And here they have their president and king and emperor, Donald Trump, saying it. They are incompatible. You'll also note, and maybe we'll see here, that they like using, cucks like using this phrase, heritage American. And that's because it's multiracial. Now, way back in the day, I've told you all when I introduced, and again, it's like anti-white, anti-whiteism. I don't know if no one else was saying founding stock. But I was a nobody way back in the day. And I said, we are the founding stock. And by that, I don't just mean, and have never meant, and continue to argue today, is the case for our existence, that it's not a founding at some point in history and now it's done. It means that every moment of our existence, we are projecting the West into the world. And that's why there is a Western civilization. Without us projecting it, it's gone immediately. If we're gone in a snap of a finger, it's gone. It doesn't continue for some time. It's gone. The West is gone. So I introduced, and then I told you all that Sam got up and one of the very few times that one of these people were respectable and honorable, and he said in front of this entire conference, I like this concept that Jason Köhne has introduced, founding stock. Well, look now, the Cucks love heritage Americans, and I'm sure it will percolate out to other Western countries. It'll be heritage Canadians, heritage. And so you even see people in the anti-non-white sphere now using, because they don't want to use out of their deep jealousy, and they don't want to direct people this direction in the work that we're doing here. So they're even deciding to use heritage for their country that they are a citizen, patriot of. But of course, this is a multiracial concept. And so that's why it's so popular in cuck circles.
Be a long time.
You said that.
We don't want those people. You understand that?
I understand.
You understand it?
I understand.
Who are you with?
I'm with News Nation. So
Okay,
my
News
name's
Nation.
Lindsay.
News Nation. Great.
Thank
Let
you.
me just tell you something. We don't want those people. Does that make sense? You know why we don't want them? Because many of them are no good, and they shouldn't be in our country.
What do you mean by those people? Can you
The people
clarify?
from different countries that are not friendly to us, and countries that are out of control themselves. Countries like Somalia that have virtually no government, no military, no police. All they do is go around killing each other.
So you see, this is where you see Trump having to deal with the reality of the social morality. He's endeavoring to find reasons to conceal the truth, which is that these populations, basically the reality that you really need to be able to grapple with is that human beings are animals. We have an instinct. Those instincts differ from group to group. And among white people, that instinct biospiritually projects itself into the world, and in aggregate is our Western culture. Each country, even regions within countries, have slightly different hues, and that's a consequence of many factors that play a part in social dynamism and time and space and history and lore and on. Personalities, of course, obviously, leading personalities. But it's very clear that there is a distinct and real instinctual projection that creates a Western civilization. And there are others as well. Now, they are incompatible. All of them are incompatible if the peoples all hold numerical courage. That's where we get violent balkanization from, because people don't like, the human animal doesn't like going out into the world and seeing a reflection that does not mirror what they project into the world. What you can have in multiracial environments is one dominant people, and their culture is the culture of the country, and then minor peoples who have or are in a state of numerical diffidence. And so they look out at the world and they say, I don't feel brave enough to make the host population or the large population feel uncomfortable. So I will deal with the discomfort. I'll practice my projection in my own home, in my own environment, and I will imitate their norms, because that's what's done. There is no assimilation. Assimilation implies that a person coming in becomes the host population or the dominant population. I can go to China and I can imitate, and because of my intelligence, do a great job at imitating their culture. 100%. I could be more patriotic than their least patriotic. I could perfectly imitate, but I could never assimilate. I could never become Chinese. I could never produce what a Chinaman would produce, no matter how much imitating I did. When it came down to it, I would continue to project what I am biospiritually. And so when you take an empire like the United States and you go from a state where you have a dominant white race and their culture, and everyone else has to comport themselves to our norms, to one in which you have many different groups of people who have numerical courage, and even by way of the dominant ideology, anti-whiteism, are encouraged to project their own instinct onto the environment and are protected when their instinct is even wildly damaging to the host population. They're protected from the consequences of the damage they cause, which is what anti-whiteism does. When you create that environment, you are hastening toward, in a cultural Cold War state, hastening toward sanguinary balkanization. That has always happened, in my opinion, in reading of history, where you have two or more peoples with numerical courage. So Donald Trump is saying what he knows is the reality of man. He's thinking about his youth when America was all white compared to now, where white norms were dominant and there were non-white people, and there are good non-white people as well, and they comported themselves to our norms. When they went out on Black Friday, they behaved like we expected people to behave. Increasingly, as you can see, that's no longer the case. But because the morality is not being addressed, the social morality from which everything else springs, everything springs, since that's not being addressed, he suddenly has to say, oh, they don't have a military at the country that they're from. I mean, really? Could you imagine Mary at home at the dinner table, and she says, we can't allow them in the country because the country they came from doesn't have a military. That's what the cucks will be saying, folks.
They come into our country and tell us how to run our country. We don't want that.
Find me an American that will disagree with that. Find me anybody who can make the case that people from failed states or failed nations, and there are many of them, but places that are terrorist hotbeds, that are clearly incompatible with West, that though people from those places are going to be a net addition. I mean, listen, the reality is that all available.
Now, remember, according to Cox, anyone can be an American. Being an American is an opinion. It's not a race. It's not a group of mankind, Western kind. Anybody can be. It's in all America is, according to the Cox, is an opinion. This is a serious clash. So here you have Benny trying to do the same thing. You can't have people come in from a failed society. I can easily defeat that. You can easily defeat that. The pig-ringed anti-white in the family can easily defeat this. Why not? Well, if Muhammad's not responsible for his society crumbling. He just wants a better life. Muhammad's not responsible for the government crumbling in the country. Muhammad's not responsible for there being no military. Muhammad's not responsible for that, on and on. Why are you going to condemn Muhammad just because he's brown? And then the cuck will say, well, no. Not because he's brown.
Evidence proves that this is a massive hotbed and population for fraud against the American people, fraud against the people of Minnesota.
Now, what makes it a hotbed what makes the population a hotbed for fraud? Benny, are you suggesting this is racial? Do you see how the cucks, this is a non-starter for them. over the years, there have been many different arguments that cucks have made that come too close to the truth. And then they fabricate these chimerical excuses, these defenses, these nebular ideas and arguments to conceal the reality that they're actually talking about. And then for social acceptance and the moral, anti-white moral metric, they end up capitulating to the easy victories that anti-whites have over them. What makes it is it the air, Benny? Is it the air where they're from? Is it what is it? Is it the trade wind? What makes this population prone to fraud? And if it's something that they've learned, then they can unlearn it, Benny. Isn't that right? And then we're back to where it all started. They're coming into the country and they're being made into good Americans, assimilated. It just has to be legal, and it has to be at a rate that's not going to inconvenience me and my white ass in my lifetime. That's the nobility of a cuck.
There are a ton of criminal cases that are either charged or have been tried against the Somali populations for enormous amounts of fraud, immigration, welfare, COVID-19, all of it. I mean, it's endless, quite frankly, the number of cases that are now being prosecuted, uncovered, and even attacked by the New York Times, of all places. So President Trump is completely bang on.
Oh, he says here the truth, though, of what anti-whites will say at the dinner table and at the cooler at work. Their society, quote, their society in Somalia or whatever other country around the world is a failed society because white people exploited it. What will a conservative say then? White people exploited their society. White people sold them on X, Y, or Z. White people are stealing all of their natural resources. So very true. Well said, brother. High speed drifter. Good to see you. Says, I agree, Jason. Violence is inevitable when contrasting cultures are forced to be together. Yep. Stumbling is here. Good to see you, brother. Trump hasn't gone, or he's not going free. You're right. But he is far enough along that he needs the Go Free lexicon to justify his actions. Once he has that, the rest will fall into place naturally. Yeah, 100%. Could you imagine if Trump right here, problematic biospiriters are good to see you. Could you imagine if he was using the lexicon right now? Different people's he just explained it the way I just explained it. Could you imagine the impact of that, not only on America, but all of Western civilization?
On this point and saying that these are populations that do not help our country and that are incompatible with Western culture. He continues.
Post, you mentioned Tim Walz, and you called him what many Americans do find offensive or retarded. Do you stand by that claim of calling Tim Walz retarded?
Yeah, I think there's something wrong with it. Absolutely, sure.
You don't think
You have a problem with it? You know what? I think there's something wrong with him. Anybody that would do what he did, anybody that would allow those people into a state and pay billions of dollars out to Somalia. We give billions of dollars to Somalia. It's not even a country because it doesn't function like a country. It's got a name, but it doesn't function like a country. Yeah, there's something wrong with Walz.
Donald Trump not backing down, calling Tim Walz.
I think that's what Cool was saying there is so true, because you could see them anti-whites or just your basic cucks saying, well, then why aren't we helping them? We're the richest country in the world. Why aren't we making Somalia better so that the Somalians who come over are more able to fit right in to our society?
Seriously retarded, and then getting back on base right here.
So you said that you might denaturalize some business. Can you talk
You
about
mean people that are in here that shouldn't be here?
that became Americans? Are you trying
Well,
to
we'll see.
revoke
I
their
mean, yeah, we
citizenship?
have criminals that came into our country and they were naturalized maybe through a Biden or somebody that didn't know what they were doing. If I have the power to do it, I'm not sure that I do, but if I do, I would denaturalize absolutely.
Denat.